When 21-year-old Emily Barlow walked into a Florida clinic, no one could have imagined the secret she was carrying. Pregnant, silent, and visibly terrified, she refused to name the father. But when a court-ordered DNA test revealed the truth, the town was shaken to its core. The baby's father wasn't a stranger. It was her own grandfather, 60-year-old Gregory Barlow. Behind the doors of their quiet suburban home, a dark cycle of manipulation, silence, and betrayal had been unfolding for years. And the one person who should have protected her, Emily's mother, Lisa May, have known all along. Willow Lane was the kind of place where people walked their dogs, waved to neighbors, and decorated Fourth holidays. Tucked at the end of the street was a Paliello house, with chipped paint and an overgrown lawn. That was the Barlow residence. It belonged to Gregory Barlow, a 60-year-old retired electrician who had lived there for over 3 decades. He was seen as quiet but dependable. People often said he kept to himself, but no one suspected anything sinister. Inside that home, however, was a different story. Gregory lived with his adult daughter, Lisa, and his granddaughter Emily, who had recently returned home after dropping out of college. On the surface, Emily's move back home looked like a family reunion. She told people she wanted to help take care of her sick mother who had been struggling with chronic illness. But in reality, she had nowhere else to go. Her once promising life had begun to unravel in silence. She cut off contact with college friends. Her social media, once filled with selfies and travel photos, had gone blank. Something about her had changed, but no one could quite put a finger on it. Neighbors noticed that the curtains in the Barlow home were always drawn. Lights would flicker late at night. There were no guests, no laughter, no noise, just quiet, unsettling, isolating quiet. The family had become a shadow of what it once was. No one could have imagined that inside that house, a dark and disturbing crime was unfolding, one that would send shockwaves through the entire town. In the spring of 2024, Emily showed up at a local women's clinic looking pale, nervous, and visibly pregnant. She was alone. The staff noticed her behavior, avoiding eye contact, flinching when touched, and refusing to answer simple questions. When asked who the father was, she remained silent. She didn't list any emergency contact. The nurse marked the situation as high risk, not medically, but emotionally. Something felt off. A social worker was quietly notified. When asked again about the father, Emily simply said she couldn't talk about it. Her body language screamed discomfort, but her lips were sealed. The clinic staff, trained to spot signs of abuse, referred the case to local authorities under mandatory reporting laws. It was standard protocol, but no one knew it would unlock one of the most disturbing criminal investigations the town had ever seen. Authorities began investigating her background. Emily had no history of relationships, no known boyfriends, no dating apps, no one claiming to be involved with her. Her phone records revealed no late-night calls or private messages. Investigators were puzzled. Then came the turning point. As part of her prenatal care, a standard DNA test was performed to screen for possible genetic complications. The results revealed something that defied logic. The baby's DNA was linked to someone incredibly close. Not a stranger, not a partner, but someone from her own family. Law enforcement quietly launched an internal investigation. A court order was issued and DNA samples were collected from the men in Emily's family. When the results came back, investigators were stunned. The baby's father was Gregory Barlow, Emily's grandfather. The truth sent shockwaves through the room. It wasn't just criminal, it was horrific. The story that had looked like a troubled young woman's accidental pregnancy was now a case of long-term abuse and incest. Gregory was arrested 2 days later. He didn't resist. Didn't even seem surprised. Inside the home, detectives found evidence that the abuse had been going on for at least 2 years. Journal entries hidden in the back of a drawer revealed Emily's emotional state. She had written about feeling trapped, manipulated, and ashamed. Gregory had used his authority, his control over the home, and her vulnerability to isolate and exploit her. He had made her believe that no one would believe her if she spoke out. For a long time she didn't. Neighbors were shocked. They described Gregory as a quiet man who fixed broken porch lights and offered to rake leaves. But inside he had built a prison of fear. Emily had no job, no car, no friends in town. He controlled every aspect of her life, from when she ate to when she slept. Her voice had been silenced in a house that looked, from the outside, like any other suburban home. As the investigation deepened, attention turned to Lisa, Emily's mother. She claimed she thought Emily had been depressed and that her father was just trying to keep her safe. But detectives weren't convinced. Several inconsistencies in Lisa's statements raised red flags. When her phone was examined, text messages to a close friend painted a different picture. In one message, she said, "Sometimes I think there's something off between them, but I don't want to know." Another read, "If I ask questions, I'll lose everything." It became clear that Lisa may not have participated in the abuse, but she likely suspected it. Whether she was afraid, in denial, or dependent on Gregory for housing and finances, her silence allowed it to continue. In the eyes of the court, her failure to act made her morally, if not legally, responsible. She was not charged, but was stripped of guardianship and access to Emily and the unborn child. It was a betrayal within a betrayal, a daughter, harmed by the man who was supposed to protect the family, and a mother who looked the other way. Emily had been left entirely alone. House full of people, the courtroom was filled with reporters, lawyers, and a handful of strangers who had followed the case with horror. Gregory Barlow stood before the judge, wearing a plain jumpsuit, his hands shackled. He pled guilty to multiple counts of rape, incest, coercion, and abuse. His face remained emotionless throughout. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Emily, now under state protection, delivered a healthy baby boy weeks later. The child was placed with a foster family, and Emily made the difficult decision not to raise him. She left town with the help of victim services and changed her name. She wanted to start over in a place where no one knew her story. Her recovery began slowly with therapy, support groups, and time. Today, Emily lives in another state. She has started writing again, hoping one day to publish a memoir. Her story is one of unimaginable pain but also strength. She survived the very people who were supposed to love her. And while the scars will never disappear, she finally reclaimed her life. In the end, the Palelo house on Willow Lane was just another structure: walls, windows, and a door. But inside, it had hidden a secret so dark it shattered an entire family. Behind suburban blinds, evil had disguised itself as love, and a young woman, once voiceless, found the courage to speak the truth.